Hey everybody, welcome to the bullpen. Today I have with me Addison Owen, and you might recognize the last name. I spoke with his dad about a week ago or a week and a half ago, who was also a basketball player in college, and so we're going to find out today about Addison and his journey. So Addison, thanks for joining on, man.
Of course, happy to be here.
Cool. So yeah, I know you played basketball in college, but I don't really know much more than that. I know one day I taught you baseball out in a park we met at with your dad and your brother. Uh, Obviously, I didn't do that great a job because you chose basketball. But tell me, like growing up, what was it? You were born here, or I mean Atlanta, excuse me.
Atlanta, yeah.
Yeah.
Born in Atlanta in '97. And then growing up, just like my primary passion, 100% was sports. Kind of dabbled with everything. I was a kid, whether it was football, baseball, basketball, a little bit of cross country. But then going into high school, I really decided to focus on basketball. Baseball really had been a huge part of my life, and honestly, I was way better at baseball when I like kind of quit just to focus on basketball. But
Okay.
I grew very quickly. I kind of popped up from like 5'10" to 6'4" in a short span of time. And decided I was like, okay, I like basketball. Let's see what happens with this. And I got a little burnt out of baseball. I was playing both travel baseball and AU basketball at the same time, which was a
Right.
total nightmare.
I can
Like
imagine.
either picking one game over another, going like driving from Alpharetta to somewhere in South Atlanta to go from a baseball game to a basketball game. So it was messy, and I was on a travel team that was not the most well organized. And we just, I don't know, I just, for whatever reason, I just kind of wasn't loving baseball anymore and decided to dive into basketball. And while I kind of wish I'd kept playing both, because I ended up going back and playing baseball my senior year of high school and absolutely loving it. I'm totally happy that I ended up focused on basketball with how things ultimately worked out, and me having the opportunity to play in college on a pretty good team at a really good school and meet some lifelong friends and learn a lot of lessons along the way.
Cool, cool. So, when did you do that whole stop and focus on basketball? What age were you?
I was That was going into ninth grade, so I guess I was what 14, I think.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, at that point, like I was very much a raw basketball player. Primarily like just a hustle guy, someone who was going
Oh,
to get on the glass, play defense, and just like kind of do whatever it took to make an impact. I didn't have that much skill offensively at that point in my life. I could like shoot a little bit, but not much. Like I kind of really had to work as I went into high school to refine my game, and kind of like establish myself as someone who could shoot or create a little bit off the dribble, and just kind of impact the game in all areas outside of just like hustle. But yeah, it was really going to high school that I made that switch. And then my freshman year, I had no idea that I would end up playing varsity. I initially in the year I was splitting time between JV and varsity, not getting very many minutes on varsity. And then I think like 3 or 4 games in the season, um, after I had like a pretty strong like second half and one night of a varsity game as a freshman, they pulled me off JV, and that was the end of it. And I was starting from that point on,
nice.
which was it was which is a sign. I was like, okay, like I because at that point I was still thinking of maybe playing baseball that spring. But when, I don't know, the season went well. I was like, okay, I love this. I'm going to put everything into it and see what happens. So I made the decision to step away from baseball. I didn't think I'd ever play again, but ended up, yeah, as I said earlier, just ended up playing for that one season my senior year.
Oh, that's a trip, man. So, what what position did you play in basketball primarily?
Whew, literally
Like
all
all of them?
everything but point guard. But throughout high school, I was just because like and at that level there's just not as much size, so I played a lot more inside. So like my freshman and sophomore years, really, I played power forward and center. And then I didn't play my junior year because I tore my ACL in an AU game my
Oh, wow.
sophomore summer. Um, and then yeah, my senior year I kind of played a little bit inside, some on the perimeter, kind of just whatever we needed at that point, depending on the lineups and who we had available. And then all through college, I was way more of a guard though.
Got it.
As I got older, I kind of focused on like 3-point shooting, which is certainly at a premium in basketball right now.
Right.
So yeah, ended up being on the perimeter a lot more, which I enjoyed so much better than playing inside.
That's cool. I remember for some reason I was in Knoxville and you were playing an AAU game there, and I came there and your dad was there, and you was taping you guys, and that must have been when you were.
I was a sophomore. I remember that tournament. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it was the first time I ever like had a windmill dunk was in warm-ups there.
Nice, man.
For whatever reason, that stuck with me.
Yeah, that's cool. So what do you attribute to the change? Like you said, you were just this raw talent. That was it just constant, persistent practicing? Did you go to camps? Did you watch YouTube videos? I don't even know if that was around at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really just staying in the gym constantly, whether it was like working out with the trainer, one of my coaches. But honestly, I've got to give more credit to my dad. He's always been my number one coach, and he's like, I give all credit for him for like teaching me to be able to shoot well. And yeah, we were just in the gym all the time. He'd rebound and pass me to the point where like his shoulder was ready to give out. But I've got to give so much credit to him because he's always been my number one supporter, my number one teacher.
Cool.
But yeah, it really just became a product of just committing to staying in the gym, especially for like, I don't think there's very many like natural shooters out there. It's something that's got to be like, even if you've got like good form naturally or can hit some shots, like it's something that's got to be just like hammered in through repetition and like making sure you've got the same mechanics all the time, because all the little things are really what matters when it comes down to shooting. But yeah, I just decided to commit to it because I really wanted to play at the college level.
Right.
And I remember just kind of growing up, because I went to the same school from 5th grade all the way through my senior year of high school. So I would hang around the gym and kind of see, and I remember just seeing like how the guys who ended up playing in college kind of approached the game and the way they worked out. So I took that to heart early and realized like if I want to get to that level, it takes a lot of commitment, sacrifice, and just working out all the time.
Yeah. So
But yeah, I've got.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. No, go ahead.
What happened? Like, was there a period of time? Obviously, you blew your knee out. ACL very much happens in basketball a lot. I mean, I think your dad even did it as an old guy.
Twice.
But what twice? Yeah, that's right. That's right. What happens? Like, was there a period where you're like, oh my God, this is the end of the world for me? What happened?
Yeah.
How did you? Was there a trough, and then how did you pull yourself up out of it?
Yeah, it was really one of the hardest things I'd been through at that, like up until that point in my life. Because especially the timing was really tough because it happened at a point when I was really starting to find myself in basketball and like felt like I was getting like near really making a jump with my game. And it was devastating because basketball had been such a huge part of my identity and everything I was doing in life, really. And like to have that taken away from me, especially like as a high school kid where it seems like it's truly the whole world, was really tough. And it was hard, like having to go to team camp with my high school teammates that summer and just sit there and watch.
Right.
And I mean, throughout the whole season, just sit there and watch. And there was one game, like I didn't even get to be on the bench with my teammates because they needed someone to go film it, and that fell on me. But it was brutal, and I remember, and especially when I first started the process of like coming back into it after all my physical therapy, where I could start working on basketball skills again. I was horrible.
Right.
Partially because I had like no confidence in my movement and was just a little hesitant and just scared of injuring myself again. But also more than anything, it was just a product of like having not been able to play. And I was always one of those guys, like very much a field player, to where I need to be in the gym like every day and playing constantly, like to play well. Where
Yeah.
some guys can go take freaking weeks, months off, whatever it may be, and be the same player. I'm
Yeah.
just not that guy.
Can't see people. Yeah.
But it was on, and I remember like I came back and I was like, I'm not having fun with this. Like, what am I doing? Like, I even thought about like quitting and just focusing on like going back to baseball. But I remember, I mean, just talking to my dad, who had been through an ACL tear, but also just has been through the ups and downs of a basketball career too. It's like, he's like, no matter like how hard this seems right now, you're gonna come through it. Like, it's not, ultimately he's like, it's not my decision to make for you, but like I think you'd really regret it if you stepped away right now. And I'm obviously I'm so glad I stuck with it. I feel like it certainly kind of hindered my development for a while, and like the timing of it wasn't ideal because your junior season is the most important for recruiting. So I missed all that high school season, a little bit of the AAU season. And then I was playing AU ball, or no, this is actually an elite camp my junior summer when I had been cleared to play. And then I tore my MCL
Oh no.
at an elite camp at Columbia. And they were recruiting me a little bit. I remember like I really wanted to go there. Who knows if it would have worked out if I hadn't gotten hurt. Never know.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, literally 3 hours into an elite camp, I'm playing really well too. And I slipped in like a little puddle of sweat.
Oh
And
no.
just felt a little pop. But I for whatever reason, like I just decided like I had to leave that camp. But I was like, I'm not letting this tarnish the rest of my summer. In hindsight, I probably shouldn't have been playing, but I just was like, I'm gonna suck this up and play through it. But yeah, injuries have definitely impacted me over the years.
Wow. That's a tough break.
Yeah.
And so how long did that put you on the sidelines for?
It should have been, I think, about a month, but it was only maybe 5 days. And I was like,
You were
I'm
done.
coming back. I'm playing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've definitely have some lingering pain in my knee from it, but it's nothing that like has really impacted me. So it was worth it in hindsight.
Yeah. I blew my arm out my freshman year in college, and it just drove me crazy. And
Yeah.
nothing like chomping at the bit. And then I couldn't imagine what would have happened when I came back, and then and maybe something happened again. That would have been just crazy. But so you came back, and this was in your junior summer, and so you came back into the fall and you played your senior year
Yep.
Yeah, okay. And you were playing basketball that season. Obviously went well. Yeah, I mean you were.
It did, but then going into the playoffs, another injury story. I was trying to cut someone off in the baseline. It wasn't a dirty play whatsoever, but he ended up elbowing me in the face, just destroyed my nose. I've had a handful of concussions, but it gave me by far the worst one I've ever had.
Wow.
And at that point, I knew I wasn't playing basketball again that year, or for my high school team at least, which was also brutal to watch. Like going into the region playoffs, and like ultimately we needed to win like one more game to make the state tournament. And like having to watch that loss on the sideline was just like absolutely heartbreaking. I mean, the whole time I'm thinking like, if I could be out there, like yeah, all of that. Obviously, it was so out of my control, nothing I could do. And then so the season ended, which was just it was brutal. Like not playing on senior night, all the little things I missed. But then on top of that, and I'd already committed to playing baseball because I played fall ball that past fall, had been working out with the guys. And then I had to miss like the first 3 or so weeks of the baseball season too. Which was, I was like, it was just horrible timing. But then ended up, coming back, playing, starting, and I ended up hitting like over 300 somehow after not really picking up a bat for 4 years. But they weren't the prettiest of hits. I'd put the ball in play and use my speed to get on base.
So what position did you play in baseball?
So growing up, I was honestly more than anything, I played catcher. But then, I mean, the timing kind of worked. There's no way I would have kept that up like throughout high school, like given my height. But yeah, I mean, and playing through 8th grade when I wasn't really that tall, it worked out. And then when I came back my senior year, they just threw me in the outfield.
Okay.
It was like go be athletic and catch balls.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool.
Um,
So you had a pretty good senior year in baseball. You hit 300.
yeah, it was honestly one of the more fun experiences I'd had playing sports in my life. Just like playing with some of my best friends. Um, and I guess for me at that point, there truly was no pressure, and I was just like playing for
right.
the enjoyment and the love of the game, and just like to stay on a team with my like best friends as long as I could.
That's
But it really, because I remember like after a few games, I was like, wow, like I wish I totally could have kept up both. I wish I'd done it. But obviously no complaints with how things ended up working out.
yeah. So what happened? You finished baseball, and then was
Yeah.
it decision time, or you were trying to figure out what to do basketball wise, and what was
Yeah,
next?
so exactly. And I was considering kind of different types of opportunities because I had like interest from like high academic Division 1 schools, and then like deep high academic Division 3 schools that also had like pretty strong basketball programs. And I was making decisions like, oh, I can go to a D3 where I know I'm going to be guaranteed minutes and like probably play a lot as a freshman. Whereas I can take a more of a chance and go to a Division 1 school where I'm getting preferred walk on opportunities, and it's like I'm
Mhm.
really gonna have to come in and earn any minutes or any opportunity whatsoever. Um, but for me, ultimately, I wanted to play at the highest level possible. So I decided to go to Rice and Rice University in Houston, Texas. Which another part was just being in a big city. A lot of the
Right.
like the Division 3 schools I looked at were the absolute middle of nowhere, where
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
totally could have lost my mind. Um, but yeah, I wanted to stay in a big city, go somewhere with both a strong academic and athletic culture. Um, and it really worked out. Like ultimately I didn't play a ton in college. I'll be very candid about that. But going to my junior year, I was able to get put on scholarship after just kind of working my butt off and like
Good
prove
for you,
myself
man.
as someone who's, I don't know, like really took pride in being a good teammate. Um, and like no matter what like opportunity I got, like I was gonna play the hardest I totally could. Um, and then, but yeah, I had a really fun 4 years there as a player. Then I stuck around for one other year to be a graduate assistant coach of the team and get some of my grad school paid for.
Cool.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I made some lifelong friends that like I talk to all the time. Like I don't know, it's probably like the funniest 4 years of my life. Um, on top of being like also probably the hardest physically and like mentally when it comes to like balancing that commitment, which truly is like a full-time job,
Oh,
on top of being a full-time student at like a top 20 university. Um, so
yeah. That's tough. That's
it was tough,
yeah.
yeah.
I
But
can imagine.
it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, 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 no. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, it was absolutely a grind, but it's like it's something that is ingrained like a just like a pretty strong work ethic in me that I still carry with me today. And I even like I find myself in like what if I'm in a tough moment at work where I'm stressed, boss is mad at me, whatever it may be. I just kind of think back. I'm like I've been through like harder stuff than this. Like for example, we had to do Navy SEAL training twice.
Really?
And like I just think back to like literally being like running miles and miles of just ridiculously heavy logs on my back, or like they had us in the pool at 4 a.m. Like just I don't know, they're just insane exercises
Oh,
with like an insane, like, just like ridiculous instructor who, like for like he saw a helicopter come by. He's like, I need a bazooka so I can shoot that down right now, and he fully like meant it, top of his lungs, screaming it.
this is
Um,
sergeant type of guy,
fully, yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
We called him Crazy Jack.
And so
So
this was
I don't know.
the Rice.
This is at Rice. Yeah, my we did it my freshman year and my senior year. Um, my freshman year it was just like kind of a 16-hour thing. We started at like 6 o'clock on a Friday, worked out until like 2 in the morning. They took
Wow.
and they had to stay in the locker room. They we removed all of our snacks and like the food we had in there. Everyone's sleeping on the floor in sleeping bags. Guys are cramping up all night, screaming. Like it was in
Wow.
hindsight, it was absolutely ridiculous.
Right, right,
They
right.
had us eating what do they call MREs, kind of like the military like
Yeah,
food kits.
yeah.
I couldn't stomach any of it. I might have had some
Gross.
crackers, like, yeah. So then I weighed myself at the end of it, and I'd lost 14 pounds over the course of the night and like early into the morning. Because
Wow.
they woke us up at like, I think it was 4 a.m. to start again, like hosed us down in the showers of cold water. Like, it was a whole thing. But
This was
I
all
look
about
back on
mental
those
fortitude and everything. I mean, this is
100%.
just like,
Yeah, yeah, and coming together as a team and kind of
right.
like suffering. Because you truly do come together when you suffer together. There's
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
there's the trauma bonds are very real.
Wow. They probably would
But
get sued these days if you did that.
right, yeah. But it's funny now because I'll find myself like frustrated or stressed or I don't know wanting to complain about a situation. I'm like I've been through way harder things. Like I'm
Wow.
gonna be okay. And I think that's for me, like, yeah, I didn't end up being a pro or having an incredible college career statistically or anything like that. But for me, like what I've been able to take away from all the time I spent in my life as an athlete and like still having that as a part of my identity a little bit is just like you've just like the mental toughness and
Yeah.
kind of just yeah, more than anything, I think sports teach you how to deal with adversity, how to deal with like triumphs and success, and just like it's something that can be very centering.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, it's definitely led to like a lot of good qualities just like for me as a person, like that I don't think I would have had I not spent so much of my time in my life as an athlete.
Yeah, that's well put. Yeah, and then on top of that, just that go to that extreme level of what you've been through,
Right.
it can't help but build you to be a tougher person. I mean,
Exactly.
and unless you collapse and you go to the hospital or something. But even then, I mean, that's kudos to you for surviving that because, as you get older, you're like, man, I would never do something like that. But,
Oh
you're
my God,
a freshman
absolutely
in
not.
high school,
No.
you're a freshman in college, you're like, okay, whatever they tell me to do. Because, yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. I mean, going to school as a college athlete is a more than full-time job, right? I mean, as you well know, especially if you're going to, a really tough academic school like you did at Rice. I mean, you're in class all day and then you have weightlifting and then you have practice and then you have early morning practice and then you have class and then you have weightlifting and so it's just a cycle that goes on all year round.
Yeah.
So it really kind of sets you up to build a work ethic like you have. I mean, and that it's kind of an upward graph that you go from 8 to 9 years old until you're in college, and as you're in college, they just throw you as much as you can handle and then some. So yeah,
Yeah.
good.
And
It's good. Work characteristics to take into the real world and corporate world or wherever you end up, right?
no,
Which,
100%.
is it so? Speaking of, like, you went to Rice and you finished the graduate. You went 1 year to coach and get your graduate degree, or did you got a master's?
Yeah, so I got my MBA, and so I went back because I graduated in 2020, which is the just peak of COVID.
Right.
Had no idea what was like, and when I graduated Rice during May, I still didn't know where I was going to stand with the team, if the opportunity was still going to be available because of the pandemic and like because everyone was cutting funding and everything. But we yeah, so I went back in July of 2020, started working with the team, just it was a very odd dynamic to be a part of the team but no longer like a part of the guys who were working out every day, playing whatever it may be, and just like to transition into the coaching element of it. But ultimately, like I really did enjoy it. Like because I got to kind of see the other side of it. And on top of that, get an education paid for. But when I was there, I realized that my passion really at this point in my life has kind of shifted to film and TV, like my dad also.
Yep.
And I decided I was gonna at the end of my first year, I decided I'm going to take out student loans, move to LA, and really pursue what I want to do. I'm totally someone who like when I realize that I'm after something, kind of like I did with basketball, like I'll kind of drop everything and just dive headfirst into it. Um, and that's nothing. Like I'm like, I don't regret it whatsoever. Of course, having a little bit of student debt now is not totally ideal, but we'll get that taken care of. And
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm happy that I made the move. And but yeah, I mean, getting that 1 year of graduate school paid for on top of the amount of my undergrad that I was able to get paid for too is such a blessing. And yeah, sports can provide so many avenues to success in different ways.
Yeah. Yeah, so you finished up, and like you said, and again, another great work ethic idea that, once you find something that you like and you're passionate about it, you got to jump into it 100%.
100%. Yeah,
I'm like,
I
go
think
ahead.
ultimately you're doing yourself a disservice if you just don't dive headfirst into it. And of course, there are true obstacles in life that can get away. But if for me, like, if, I don't know, if I see an opportunity that I'm super passionate about, I'm just going to jump for it.
Now, what sucked you into the TV and entertainment world?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's always something I'd had an interest in because growing up, I would be like a production assistant on my dad's set, and I just kind of loved like the hustle and that the energy of like being on set and kind of like the organized chaos of it all.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
good way to
and
put it.
then I don't know, I didn't really know what I wanted to do in film and TV. I just know I knew I wanted to be in the industry. And honestly, I'm still kind of figuring out what it is exactly that I want to do long term with it. Um, but I moved out here and I originally was going to work at a smaller production company and kind of like in a part time capacity, kind of get out here, finish up school, figure out what I was going to do, like what my long term plan was going to be. And then right before I was going to move, I got connected with somebody at WME, which is a big talent agency. And I got hired pretty quickly, which was shocking to me. I didn't think I had the necessary like experience and like the right internships for that. But I guess I interviewed well, and for that, like, I just got thrown into the fire. I worked for as an assistant for an agent who had not had a previous assistant.
Okay,
And
how'd
I
that go?
had at first it was very rocky because I had no,
Uh,
because there was no one there was no training for me because there wasn't a previous assistant to train me. And then a lot of assistants also, they start out in what's called the mailroom. Um, but I didn't do that. I just got thrown into the fire. But ultimately, like, I think that was the best possible like kind of learning experience in boot camp for me.
Right.
So I worked for him for about 4 months. We're still have a good relationship, like a good mentor for me. But after that, I got promoted to work for the CEO,
Oh
Ari
wow.
Emanuel, which
Yeah,
was, I won't get into him as a person or like, but
yeah, yeah,
his name speaks for
yeah,
itself. If you've seen
yeah.
Entourage, yeah,
Yeah, people
he's
don't
tough.
know. Yeah, I was gonna say, if people don't know, yeah, that's the guy who was based off of for the show Entourage,
Ari Gold, yeah, exactly.
Ari Goldman. Yeah, so yeah, enough enough said right there, but that's all
Yeah,
good.
but that
Uh,
but honestly, like my experiences in sports were like literally helped me get through because he's a very tough and demanding boss. And like after I'm like, yeah, this is tough, but like it's gonna be fine. I've been through worse. We're gonna get through it.
yeah, yeah,
So I worked for him for 10 months and I realized I didn't quite want to be an agent. I've always had a real interest in producing.
right.
Um, but I also enjoy the representation business and being able to help develop careers and like drive the strategy behind them. So I've since moved to a management company, which I'm really loving.
Oh,
But yeah, I mean, down the line, like I think what I want to do is manage and produce.
uh-huh.
But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, man, you're still young. You're still trying to figure it out. That's all.
Exactly.
I mean, as long as you stay in the business, you'll find it. You'll figure it out. It'll hit you, maybe even. You never know. I mean, I spent 18 years out there, so yeah,
Yeah.
but I think your background, and you went to a great school. You got your MBA. I think that was really appealing to people, and I think they probably saw you played sports too, and people kind of associate a built-in work ethic to people that have kind of gone through that system. So kudos to you, man. That's a great start to the business, and being where you are and what you've gone through already out there. I mean, you worked with one of the most difficult people in Hollywood for the most part, and made it. It's probably like that Marine training that you went through your freshman and senior year.
Yeah, it's like boot camp.
So do you think you like the management side? Is it the talent side, or is it the producer director side too, or like what writer or some?
Honestly, both. The company I work at currently, most of our clients are multi-hyphenates, and like, yeah, they may primarily be actors, but also they've written successful projects, have produced on top of it. Some have directed a little bit. And for me, I think what's really appealing about management is you get to like touch so many different areas of what your client does. Whereas when you're at an agency, it's going to be more focused into one vertical or one path of their career.
Right.
But for me, I'm someone who kind of wants and like craves new challenges. I can get bored pretty easily, just kind of from doing the same things over and over again. But in management, it's a new challenge every day. So yeah, that having those challenges, or like, yeah, that on top of like being able to kind of produce projects with clients, or even projects I just want to get made myself down the line, is really the goal.
That's cool, man. That's cool. So any advice to kids, or high school to college, anything you want to pass along that you feel like you be worthwhile?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is the first thing is figuring out what it is that you love and what you want to pursue. For some that comes quickly, or you just kind of stumble upon it at a certain point in your life. I mean, I think the biggest thing is diving headfirst into it. You've got to make sacrifices, whether it's, I don't know, missing out on like hanging out with your friends a little bit so you can go work out. Like if you're someone who wants to get to the level of playing in college or professionally, it truly does take commitment and real sacrifice, and just like a strong work ethic. And I think it's always also so important just like to utilize those around you who want to help, whether it be coaches, trainers, parents, whatever, other teammates, whatever it may be. But like listen to other people, what they especially, I don't know, I feel like when I was a high school athlete, I was like, I know everything.
Yeah.
I don't know, you start getting a little better, you start feeling yourself a little bit. Like, I don't need to listen to my coach. Listen to your coach.
Right. Right.
They, at the end of the day, more than likely know better.
Yeah. Your ego kind of gets started
But
there, and
100%, yeah, it's
if you don't tame it at some point.
keeping the ego in check as you start to find some success.
Yeah.
But really, yeah, just it's all I can say is like the biggest thing is just work hard. That's and it's cliche, but it truly is. It's, as an athlete, I think the only way to get to where you want to be.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, you do have to sacrifice. I mean, I didn't go on spring break trips. I didn't go on summer trips. I mean, I did
Right.
miss out on some things that my high school team or high school friends went and did, but that's just part of kind of what you have to do.
No, if you want to find success, you've got to be different.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. You got to walk your own path. No doubt. Well, cool, man. I think we kind of squared it all off here, and I really appreciate you kind of passing along your story. I think people appreciate that, and best of luck. Continue what you're doing, man. I know, your dad and I have got a couple projects we're trying to get off the ground, so it's not easy, but I think you've got your foot in the ground already, and that's really awesome.
Thank
So,
you. Yeah, really enjoyed the conversation. Yeah, glad we could do this.
cool. All right, Addison. Well, good luck, man, and we'll talk to you soon.
Definitely.
All right, buddy. See you, man.